Are we good?
Not yet.
Okay.
Takes a couple minutes, sometimes faster, sometimes
I see.
slower. Once it comes on, then I have to get off because then it echoes. Okay,
Oh,
there we
interesting.
go. We are live.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. Welcome to the third meeting of the Budget Committee. So I just put a link to the sort of central document for the committee in the chat, so you can feel free to join us there. I'll post it again just in case it wasn't, it wasn't visible if you just joined. Um, Maybe I can go ahead and share my screen, and we can just talk over the agenda and then start in earnest. So this is the agenda for today. So four things. First, chat through some of the action items we talked about last week. The second thing, and I think probably the most substantial discussion that I'd like to have this week, is around last year's budget responses and what basically aligning with you all on a strategy for how to follow up with agencies. For many of our top requests from last year, they said that they do not support and cannot accommodate, but they also said promptly contact the agency for more
Recording
information.
in progress. Oh, shoot. No, that's me. Hold on.
Everybody okay?
I think
Yeah,
so.
Christine, I muted you. So there you go.
Okay, and just a quick question, Michael, you got my,
I did.
okay, good.
So yeah, we can chat a bit about that. And then go over the survey results. So the survey will stay open until Sunday, but I thought now is a good time to at least kind of walk through the top chosen areas for each of the areas that are in the survey that map to the policy areas used by the city in the budget process. And then I plan to sort of write something up that we, can circulate to members of the committee so that you have it on an ongoing basis. And also, so, any future, any responses we do get in the next couple days are sort of captured. But we've gotten 313 responses, which is terrific. I mean, we are really close to being 10x where we were last year. So that's pretty exciting. And yeah, and then I put this again as a kind of reminder from last week, but since folks kind of can't make every meeting, just as a way to get requests from committees, a kind of form that you can use to submit the requests, which will help us sort of organize it so that it's in the format that we need to submit to the city, which is a kind of spreadsheet that looks like this. But anyway, that's the high level overview, and now we can sort of dive into specific topics. So the follow-ups from last week were mostly around the survey. So I did reach out to Tom and Blissville Civic and asked them to circulate with Blissville folks, and then shared the flyer with Carissa and Danielle and the office for outreach. I'm curious, Danielle, you had sort of nominated yourself to do various kinds of outreach, and I'm curious if you have an update you can give us about how things have gone. You're muted. Ah, okay.
Sorry. I don't know. I couldn't find the Zoom screen.
It happened.
So I didn't have very much luck because nobody was really doing any events and
Okay.
other people just didn't respond.
Okay.
And then I also found, like, just in general in my neighborhood, like everybody's on vacation or just otherwise not very engaged right now.
Got it.
But I do have a question for you. Is
Okay.
September 6th too late? Because that's my building, like my apartment building's next event.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of indicated that August 31st was the close date. So, but I think, to the extent that from hearing from residents, there are needs that you feel aren't captured in the survey, and by the 6th, I'll circulate the sort of write-up of the results, then I think it would be probably makes sense to surface those to the relevant committee.
I mean, if we could continue, I think we would have better luck just because it feels like I hit the dead zone. I hit the vacation zone.
Yeah,
So,
um, makes sense. I mean, we've had it open for like 3 months, and we're at like 10x where we were last year. So in the scheme of things, I feel pretty good. But I think it is all of this is like good learnings for the future about, I think, how in the spring and summer we can like plan better. But we're learning. We're building the path as we walk it, I feel.
yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe it shouldn't delay us moving ahead in the process. But if we keep it open, Danielle, if there's maybe a sea change consideration. But yeah,
Like I
uh,
think back to school. Like I feel like, you know what I mean? Like everybody
uh,
comes back after Labor Day, they're back, politicians are doing stuff, all that happens.
Yeah, I just
timing's never good.
But no, I
Timing's
think that's
never
a good,
perfect. So yeah, let's just not delay
okay.
this process all the same. But I mean, we can keep it open. But there you go.
Yeah, or just have conversations. I
yeah,
do think it'll be better after the second or after the first of September.
Sure.
yeah,
I don't think it surprises anyone in this group that I always want to make sure perfect is never the enemy of good.
Yeah.
So there.
yeah. I do think for September we do need to start like working on getting the requests in, and so that like that's where the attention should shift. So the survey's been open since June, and we have a lot of responses. I do think like we should never stop engaging with our community, but at some point, like becomes necessary to write up something and share it. I mean, I won't physically stop people from stopping from taking the survey, but like they're more than welcome to fill out the form. But I do think like the results as of the 31st will be the ones that I sort of write up and circulate to folks so that, by the time folks are starting to meet with their committees and there are like committee meetings early in September, we have the write up. But Jordan, I see your hand is raised, but this is a like at this stage we're just deliberating as members of the committee, so it's not a sort of uh
I appreciate you, Michael. I just want to tell you guys I appreciate of your civil service and what you're doing for our community too. For myself, I live in Long Island City and I have a background in social work. I've worked in 4 city agencies. I would like to get to know all you to make Long Island City and Sunnyside and that district more inclusive, diversity, and I'd like to get to know all you and I praise all the work that you're doing. And I'm very pleased to just join this meeting. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, and the full board is meeting next Thursday if you want to attend.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah. Thank you.
Christine, you're muted, Christine. You're still mute, Christine. You're on mute.
Sorry. No, what do I do? Should I log? I'm gonna log out.
All right. The other thing I wanted to follow up on from last week was just around
Christine, it looks like you're logged in twice.
yeah.
I'll message her. I don't know if it's a different device or
Probably, she might be on YouTube too. That's why you have the echo.
Oh, interesting.
You can't
Could
be on
be.
YouTube and your computer, it gets feedback.
Makes sense.
could be.
So we have a narrative that we submit as part of this process, and I did just want to, so we've kind of, for the most part, have folks who are working on each section. The only one I wanted to follow up on is the like needs for older New Yorkers, needs for homeless, etc. Um, w- Lauren, did you have a chance to connect with Andrea on this? If she's can help us with the older New Yorkers section?
I emailed her, but I think she's out of the office until September 7th, so I'll follow up with her post
Okay,
Labor Day.
sounds good.
And then I needed Alyssa's email address. I don't have that. And then I can follow up with both her and Warren.
Um, okay.
I
How-
I just emailed Anatole for Alyssa's
oh,
email address. Okay.
great. Thank
Okay.
you. Christine, your hand is raised on that device. Would you like to?
Okay, am I a
You're
single
good.
voice now?
Yes,
Great,
you're great.
okay. So apologies for missing the last meetings if you covered this already, but what is the exact timetable for the committees to give input in this?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great question. So basically, the way that I have set up the work back plan is that I would like committees to discuss their budget priorities in their September meeting, and then at the end of the month, basically submit the committee's requests to the budget committee. So I've put October 1st here as the deadline. And then I've kind of put together like a scorecard to rank different requests based on whether they're a committee's top priority and then basically whether they align with the top issues identified in the survey, and then if there are community group endorsements, etc. And that's like the first round of prioritization, I think, is just using this. Then there's likely going to be some ties, and then we'll use our meeting in October to discuss any of those ties. And then once we sorted out the ties, we submit the that final request to the city, that list of requests. So September, like the month of September, is when committees should deliberate on their budget requests, and then committee chairs or designees can kind of submit them to me, or rather to the budget committee. But it's through this form that I have put here. And I think what I'll do, Christine, since obviously there's some process here, is just write up a sort of set of instructions that we can send out to members of the committee about this process so that the chairs
Okay.
have it handy.
I
Yeah.
mean, as regards land use, our September meeting, our September agenda is absolutely packed. We have a whole ULURP item that we haven't ever considered before, and we only have September to arrive, to hear it, make a recommendation, and the board has to, issue its recommendation because it's through its special dispensation, because it's going over the 60 days. And then several other, we've had some agencies that want to come and talk to us, including Parks, who, I mean, this is very relevant to the budget. Parks suddenly has this clump of money for purchasing land.
Uh-huh.
Clump was the wrong word, for new parks,
Uh-huh.
which they're telling us they couldn't do through the one
For like
LIC
years.
process.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of important, in fact, some of it new information that
Yeah.
the committee might want to respond to in their recommendations, but I don't know that we're going to have the opportunity to vet it fully. What I
Yeah.
could do is draft something with Pramit and just circulate it by email before the end of October. End of September. Is that okay? I mean, you don't
Yeah.
require like a committee vote, a formal vote. That never happened before.
No, no, absolutely not. I mean, I don't think deliberate necessarily needs to be synchronous. You can certainly draft and circulate and get feedback that way. I think that's entirely reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's great. Also, just sounds really exciting. from the park information you shared.
Well, if anybody deserves that money, CB2 does, in my view, but I'm sure other, anyway.
Yeah, we don't have enough parks, so
Yeah.
that's exciting. Cool. Okay, well that's the kind of action items piece from the agenda. There's one thing, and I think it's related actually to what you've just, in some ways related to what you've just shared, Christine. I'd love to just chat with you all about the responses we received from the city with regards to kind of our top priority issues last year. So I've pulled them into a spreadsheet, and this is the priority we assigned it. You can see if it ends with E, it was an expense request, and if it ends with C, it was a capital request. You can see that there's more than one row for each request. That's because we get responses both from a city agency as well as from the OMB. So that's why it looks the way it does. But you can see that for many of our top items, they said agency does not support and cannot accommodate. I would say if you look at like the top, top priority things we submitted last year, thematically, they're either affordable housing, like our top expense budget request was an affordable housing related thing, or they were kind of relative to sewers. So there's this, and like flooding and these kinds of issues. So there's this Hunters Point sewers thing, and then there's also these sewers and catch basins type thing. And um, so so those are the ones I'd really like to chat about because I mean, for some of these other things, like for renter assistance, they say like we support this, but they're very vague. But our top request was about, HPD and identifying sites and so on. And the response from the city was agency does not support and cannot accommodate. And then it says, please contact the agency directly and promptly for more information. And that's pretty similar to what we got for the sewer related things. And so I'm, new to this. And I'm curious what experience we've had in the past contacting agencies. But my thought here is that I think it would be prudent to try to get a hold of somebody from an agency, in particular from HPD and from the Department of like DEP to kind of speak to the agency's position here and, what sorts of requests, if our community is concerned about these sorts of issues, what sorts of requests are like more aligned with the agency's goals and are likely to be supported. I'm curious if, anyone on the committee has kind of general reaction to that and also just like a specific sense of tactically how we might engage here with
Those are
agents.
really good questions. And I think when we did try and reach out about specifics, I mean, my memory is regarding sewers, we had somehow a whole historic list of, intersections that were, or areas where sewers were a problem.
Yeah.
But we weren't really sure whether work had been done already or not on some of them because, the requests went back so many years. And when we asked the office to try and get get specific responses on what had or hadn't been done, we didn't get that. So I think you're absolutely, what you're saying makes total sense, but I'm not sure. There is a Queens office. HPD has a Queens planning office, and that might be, I think, what is his name? He's a very sweet guy who's come to, Kevin Paris, who's come to talk to us about Hunters Point South, might be the person to start with. I could reach out to him.
Yeah, that would be terrific. And in particular around just like, yeah, so our number one expense budget request last year was about essentially working with HPD to find sites
Right.
suitable for affordable housing, and they said they don't support, and they said contact us. So what do they want us to do, right? If we want to support HPD in building affordable housing in our district.
Yeah, I don't have any similar contact to suggest at DEP, but maybe the Environment Committee does. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but even just on this, Christine, I'd really appreciate if you could get intel on that. And also, I think that could really inform, right, as we'll soon see, right, affordable housing is like the by far the issue that
Yeah,
received the most votes in the survey, and so it's very likely to be a high priority request this year as well. So how to formulate that in a way that, is likely to be successful.
right.
Cool, thanks. Patrick?
Yeah, I was going to say for anything DEP related, it should just be sent to the environmental committee and as old business and have them do follow-ups. Carlos, if and when you see this, sorry for giving you and your crew more work, rather than having folks volunteer it themselves, but I just think that's the most logical.
Yeah,
Christine, I know we're chocker block at land use. So if you volunteer for DEP, I mean for HPD follow-ups periodically, I think that works too. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think it is natural for DEP to, I mean, for the environmental committee to follow up on the DEP issue. Um, so yeah, I can certainly reach out to Carlos and ask him. I know there was a person from DEP who showed up to the full board at some point.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe Carlos
yes,
has a relationship with him.
We can
yeah,
ask them, but they don't always respond. We sent a letter, as Christine alluded to before, which did go unanswered, so we can do that again and see what happens.
Deb, I'm alluding it to making a paper trail of being a squeaky wheel. So yeah, I think that works just as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Remember, every request has to come through the office.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, so Debbie,
What was the name? What was the name of the guy that came to speak with us from DEP?
He's the new borough
No,
commissioner.
Lopez,
Yeah.
What was the first name?
Commissioner Lopez.
Lopez. Oh, okay, good.
so Debbie,
Yeah.
it sounds like you may have would you be able to reach out to him and just ask? Because, if you look at our list, several of the top 10 are sewer related or, flooding related. And so it would be helpful to understand what, how to communicate these needs in a way that resonates with the agency.
Really agree.
Awesome. So, is that something you can follow up with?
Sure,
I'll ask
not a
Carlos.
problem.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, great. Um, and
Yes,
George,
and Patrick, you're right. Alfonso is his first name.
There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm definitely here to support you guys. I'm part of the housing task force for Metro Plus Health. Question is if there's a 421A plan on how builders and property deal with HPD because that has to reflect on the AMI. And the district is from Long Island City to Sunnyside. So how builders are acquisitioning for fair representation. We could do a FOIL request and in terms of equity in building, I mean, there's buildings every day, but realtors have to follow some compliance in terms of how they're building. So 421A will reflect on the 30% margin of the AMI, and we could get into more of that in terms of accountability and equity and social representation. So I'm willing to help you guys on that. I know it's my first meeting for city agencies, and I can give you guys a lot of insight on kind of the bureaucracy of how some things can, get done and they don't get done per se. Thank you.
thanks, Jordan. So let's move to the next item. So I wanted to, so as mentioned, I'll kind of write something up and circulate so you all have it. But I did just want to kind of chat through, um, at a high level, the survey responses that we got as part of this process because that is going to inform our budget request and is also just like helpful context. There's also a lot of comments, and so obviously it's hard to kind of show that to you all visually without kind of spending all night. And so I do wonder if I can include some of that and just ask Debbie to circulate it to all of you as well. So I'll plan to do that. But I just want to talk through some of it. So from end to end. Um, so as mentioned, 313 responses, so not so bad in the scheme of things in our recent history. largely people who live in the district, and then some people who live and work or just work in the district. Um, kind of this gets a little tricky because, Hunters Point is in Long Island City, and I did a little bit of playing around with aggregating those. And when I write this up, I'll do that more. But I would say in general, Sunnyside was probably overrepresented in our survey relative to its share of the population. And interestingly, although we got, 85 responses from Woodside, which isn't bad, I was looking at the demography of CB2, and Woodside is a larger share of it than I had realized.
Yeah.
So Woodside is actually like closer to maybe like half of CB2, which I was a little surprised by, but I just didn't know. Um, so I would say the way I would look at this is actually is I think for LIC is probably like a quarter of the population of CB2. And we were maybe, once you kind of sum all this together in dedupe, it's like maybe a little less than its representation in the district. Sunnyside was probably overrepresented and Woodside was underrepresented. Although we still got, three times. We got like more than double the number of responses from Woodside this year as we got for the entire survey last year. So in the scheme of things, we are still, I think, hearing more voices. We're doing better, but just kind of a probably useful thing to keep in mind. And then one person who probably doesn't live in CB2 took the survey and hand wrote that they like as an other option Astoria. Not really sure what to do with that response. Thankfully, there's just one. Um, Christine?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think there's a lot of confusion as to how people identify Woodside and
That's true.
Sunnyside, because south of Queens Boulevard, what you
Yeah.
think of as Sunnyside in the 40s is actually in the Woodside zip
Wha-
code. My
Once you're
son lives
south,
on 45th Street,
yeah,
just above 48th Avenue, and he's in Woodside,
right.
but would probably tell you that he lived in Sunnyside. So I'm not
Totally.
sure. I think we probably need to just look at both.
Yeah, that does get a little tricky for sure. And have you seen this New York Times map where people say what neighborhood they live in and neighborhood boundaries? It's so cool. If you haven't seen it, but the New York Times did a survey about this. But yeah, I live south of Queens Boulevard, but north of Greenpoint Avenue. So I'm in Sunnyside. But yeah, it's very strange. If you walk just a little bit south in what I would consider very much Sunnyside, it's like officially Woodside, which is not intuitive. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's that for
I
sure.
mean, and the survey is where people self-identify their neighborhood, right?
100%. Yeah, of course. And we didn't ask zip code. I did kind of go back and forth on that. Like zip code would be more objective and we could compare it to statistics, but I don't know. Somehow I feel like it's a little less in some ways it's also like tricky because they're pretty big. And so like I have the same zip code as Sunnyside Gardens, but I don't exactly consider myself to live in the same neighborhood. So it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, the LIC zip code would make it tricky because then I could
Yeah,
see someone identifying as Astoria because there's that zip code covers people
a
think that's
piece of it.
Astoria. Yeah.
Yes, totally, totally. And like the Blissville zip code is obviously Astoria, but or sorry, is a LIC's zip code, but people there typically don't use say they live in Blissville. So yeah, it gets a little tricky, but okay. So the plurality of respondents, actually the majority of responses, listed affordable housing as the top issue in the district. I don't think that's a huge surprise, but yeah, it is the key issue in our district. The second most selected issue for top three issues in our district was parks and open space. Probably also not so surprising. We are just sort of objectively compared to other community districts. We have a less like a smaller proportion of our population can walk to a park than the city as a whole. So this is sort of consistent with that. And then the third, although I would say like there's quite a big drop off, the third most selected issue was land use trends, which I think people interpret it in a lot of different ways, frankly. So it gets a little tricky, but that was the third most selected issue. And then there, are several others that came up a lot. Crime and public safety, transit, trash removal, quality of life writ large, all sort of in the pack, and then a kind of long tail of other issues. But as far as like the top three issues that we would report and, in our statement of needs formally, it looks like it's going to be affordable housing, number one, parks and open space, number two, and then land use trends, number three. Danielle?
Do you have any idea how quality of life and crime, is that the other one? Crime and safety break down? Because often crime and safety are actually quality of life issues and vice
Yeah.
versa. Like often we hear, we have to talk to the police about the trash, and that's not
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I'd have to, and I will look more into that and see from the comments and also just circulate the relevant comments to you. Um, I do think I remember reading comments where people mention things like muggings and so on that are kind of more squarely crime. But there's also a lot of stuff around like homelessness and disorder and panhandling that, are sort of these more like quality of life disorder kind of topics. So, but yeah, it's a great, like, super interesting question. And yeah, I guess the tactical, practical answer is that I will look at the comments and say what I think, and then send you the comments, and then you can also decide how you interpret it. Cool. And then yeah, so you can see there's a bunch of comments. There's 153, so we're not gonna read them all together. But yeah, you can see like this person is citing a crime, some crime stuff, and then there's also just all sorts of um, yeah, all sorts of things. And then so in our statement of needs, as well as in the survey, because it's kind of copying the statement of needs, there are 7 policy areas. And so, we asked people about of each 7 policy areas, they're the most important issue. And yeah, I mean, we choose from a long list that's provided by the city. You can see that for many of these, like lots of different issues received a meaningful amount of support, but we kind of have to choose one. To obviously we can write about all of these and include all of these, but formally we say like what is the top issue in each policy area, and so to determine that, we pick the one that got the most responses. So relative to healthcare and human services, the plurality of responses were around services to reduce or prevent homelessness. But there were also other, issues that received a lot of attention, environmental health issues, so exposure to pollution and so on, services for low income and vulnerable New Yorkers, and then mental health and substance use. And I think we'll also share all these comments with folks when I write things up and send them to Debbie to circulate with you all. The second issue is youth education and child welfare. So here again, also pretty fragmented, like a lot of things were talked about. After school programs is the one that received the most votes. And then youth workforce development and childcare services rounded out. For the public safety and emergency services policy area, the top response is general crime. So not, oh, I see a cat on my screen. That's nice. General crime, which is, yeah, that's the issue. Then traffic violations and enforcement. My read of that was it was a lot of folks, as as I've also heard from members of the board and seen myself, talking about, like parking violations and other sorts of, traffic infractions and so on. And then emergency and disaster preparedness and crime prevention. And then the next policy area is core infrastructure, city services, and resiliency. This one had more of a clear front runner, which was cleanliness, trash collection, and then extreme
Not
weather.
shocking at all.
And then extreme weather preparedness, flooding, etc. Was the second. And then it was kind of a long tail, but air quality, environmental concerns, and noise pollution also came up. And then for housing, affordable housing creation was the clear front runner. Not a huge surprise, I think. and then followed by affordable housing preservation. And then a little below that, neighborhood preservation and land use and zoning. So affordable housing here again, also like the clear front runner issue. And then transportation also had like one clear front runner, albeit with a quarter of folks responding, and that was subway service. And then pedestrian safety, bike network, and traffic safety were other commonly chosen options. And then for parks, the clear front runner, insufficient park or open space, with 43% of responses, and then park care and cultural programming being the next two. And I think that's it. We also, asked people if they had any specific budget requests. And so I can ask to circulate those as well. I think some of these are not super actionable, but there were some that I thought were pretty interesting, like naming specific intersections and saying like this one needs a crosswalk, stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of some specific intersections named too. So we'll circulate all those. But yeah, that's trying to figure out. I guess I can stop sharing for now. That's the survey. Oh, Christine, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I did read the comments, especially on parks, and I thought they were very articulate and really differentiated between different types of park space and people that felt that there was sort of no opportunity where they lived to have real green space where they could sit, as opposed to say active recreation, paved ball courts and stuff like that. And I think it's really worth thinking about, or thinking about what we want to ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I wonder about and just like truly speaking earnestly, thinking out loud, is it ripe to talk about LIC? Because there's like the neighborhood plan stuff happening, or to talk about like instead the like parts of our district that really have no green space right now, which is how I consider like where I live.
Right. You mean
Sunnyside,
South Sunnyside.
Yeah, there's a joke, and it's totally true that the Wendy's parking lot is like the only place you can find grass. Like, because the
That's
corners of the parking lot have a little bit of grass. I mean, mostly it's just like just a huge lot with a lot of parking, but a little bit of grass in the corner. But yeah, I don't know. But definitely agree that and that was a clear theme, right? That insufficient park space was kind of a top of mind concern.
But don't you think it's all connected?
Oh
Because
yeah,
I mean, I'm in LIC, I go to Astoria Park. So then I'm
yeah,
in the park of the neighborhood next to me.
yeah. And
It's
I go to
all,
LIC. Yeah, totally. No, I mean, we all live close together, so it is kind of all connected for sure. But yeah, thanks for all your help with the survey outreach. I think we did actually get a lot of useful feedback, which is terrific. And I'll kind of write up a little bit of a narrative, but mostly just circulate, what's there so that committee chairs and other members of the committee can just digest and take it into account. And then yeah, those top issues that were chosen in the survey will influence our priorities in the way that I had kind of outlined in that spreadsheet. So it'll help us rank stuff in a way that's kind of transparent and easy to explain. So that's the survey stuff. Any other questions on that? Cool. Then maybe just one more thing to talk through. So I think many of you saw this already. But I think it's just a helpful refresher because it's kind of the key thing that we deliver. So our budget request, so I've put together this form, right, for you to, for committee chairs to submit the budget request and then say some things about it to help us rank it. And so I think that'll be helpful for us to understand. I've kind of organized some references here that I think are just helpful for writing the requests. So the DCP has this document where they kind of map needs to specific request types and agencies and then describe them as capital or expense. And so I think this is just like a really helpful way to get started, and to like understand what agencies would be involved with a particular type of request. So that's a helpful resource. And then I included this tips thing as well, if you want to read it. And then community boards. So the not strictly enforced, but guidance provided by DCP is that community boards submit up to 40 capital project requests and up to 25 expense requests. And we have 8 committees that will submit requests. So just, I mean, this is a super wide range because I'm not trying to be super constraining, but I think like if you find yourself with more than 5 capital or more than 5 expense requests, I think it might be helpful to try to think about the top priorities. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, obviously, but I just think like if we all did 10, right, we would um, far exceed this cap, like or like suggested cap, and agencies do have to respond to all of our requests, and so it does create work for them. And so I think it makes sense to try to be a little bit disciplined while still, capturing all the needs. So just wanted to give that context. But yeah, does anyone have any questions or concerns about the sort of October 1st deadline for having committees kind of having their set of requests ready? Danielle?
I have no concern, but
Amazing.
um,
Love it.
no, I don't. I actually just have no concern. New issue or new question.
Okay.
The information you just shared with us,
Yeah.
is there any way I can have that before the 10th of September? Because that is when my committee meeting is, or
Oh
my.
yeah, well this document,
Oh, do I have it?
yeah, I mean, everyone should have it. I'll put it
No,
in the
that's fine. My computer, when I couldn't see you before, that everything crashed in my Safari, so I will go
Okay.
figure out where I have it.
Yeah. So I'm keeping everything in this doc that I just put the link to in the chat.
Okay.
So it's all there.
Yep. Okay, cool.
And yeah,
I think that might be helpful, especially as city services, because we don't usually have that many requests. So
yeah, and I think it's totally reasonable. Again, just thinking about like the number of committees we have and the number of requests that is sort of in the guidelines. If you have like 2 requests, that's
Yeah.
perfect, right? Like that's well within the range. If you have 3, like
Yeah.
well within the range. So I wouldn't, it's about communicating our priorities, not submitting a really long list.
I just want to give them some guidance. So
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. Let's maybe go through the hands and then call it a night. I'm having trouble seeing whose hands are raised. So if you could,
Dean,
Christine.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there's a lot of overlap in things that come to land use and are really also relevant to other committees, especially parks and also transportation. Like,
Yeah.
So since Riley's here, but no, Riley, one thing that I think is like this issue over the whole district, which I would love for them to really address in a more coordinated way, is parking on sidewalks. All these different businesses and entities and car related businesses, but not just them, that brazenly park on the sidewalk. I walked today up Broadway to look at this rezoning site that's going to come before us for rezoning, and I couldn't stay on the sidewalk in a lot of places. So is that a transportation request? That I'm not sure. There's just some things like that I think are major issues that I don't know. I don't want to be the only committee asking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a major issue. It's in every one of our meetings. Everybody has different areas, and yeah, unfortunately, it's NYPD, and like we can ask for more funding for the cops, but they're not going to do their job
that's a
on
city
that.
service issue that I could put that in from city services.
Yeah.
You're right. It is an issue. It's an issue in every city service meeting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they should create, I don't know, a task force or just something where cops had to issue tickets and
I mean, the cops just created, or Eric Adams created the Q force, the quality of life force, which should tackle this. So I don't know.
I mean, if they issue tickets too, they'll make revenue, right?
You would think so. Like sometimes I report 5 cars and I'm like, hey, I just made $1,000 for the city, but nobody gets a ticket.
Yeah.
And we get no new parks, but yeah.
So I had sort of contemplated the case of like more than one committee thinks a request is important. And I think, I mean, there's a coordination problem here of sorts, but if I do think like if multiple committees make the same request, we can probably prioritize it more. And I think, if this is an issue that three different committees think is like super important, that's probably something we can think about. But I think so that's like one maybe thing to add on that. Um, Another is and maybe I can take that as an action item myself, actually, which is to say, if multiple committees submit requests that seem to me to be like the same request, I mean, maybe not like literally, but like substantively, maybe we can think about consolidating them and then prioritizing it, higher as the top choice or, a top choice of multiple committees. So that's like one thought on that. The other thing, I think Patrick made a point in the chat that strikes me as a good one, which is like there is a sense in which land use is like kind of everything. And so anything like how we use land is sort of like encompasses lots and lots and lots of other committees' purview as well. So
so
uh,
what I might do, if it's okay, is sort of try and come up with a list of things that have come before land use. And whenever they're relevant to another committee, circulate it to that committee and let you guys, other committees then develop the actual request so that
yeah,
we're not developing all the requests. But
I think that's excellent. If you want to do that, Christine. And I think that's great. I also think more generally, right? Like if you're on committee X, but you really care about something relevant to committee Y, I think it's totally fair game and makes a ton of sense to like suggest it to the people involved. Um, cool. I mean, we've gotten through my agenda. Does anyone else have anything they would want to ask about or
I'd
any
like
other?
to comment. I appreciate the presentation and the civil service that you guys put in, and I learned a lot from you guys, and I'm looking forward to hopefully build relationships. Long Island City and Sunnyside, they're different, but they're all in the same community too. My question is if the AMI is the same, and are these building owners are taking city FEPs and Section 8, and is there a way to hold them accountable? And obviously HPD can probably with a FOIL request to see is that they're meeting the social equity of affordable housing. So I'm looking forward to have collaborate and work with the committee to hold landowners accountable.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're speaking to a lot of important issues in our district. As far as the budget committee goes, does anyone have any other kind of questions? I think my next plan, so we don't meet for a couple of weeks. We have a meeting in mid-September, which I think of as being kind of like a check-in on how things are going. So I think in, the month of September, I would love for you all to be working on, the budget requests and getting them ready to be submitted, but like I'd like to have some time, and that's what the meeting is for, to just talk through any concerns that come up or any issues so that we don't, there's no need to have them like linger until we get close to a deadline. Um, so that's what that is for. And then we meet again in mid-October, which is when I think when we'll talk about ties, basically, where requests get the same score. That's sort of my vision of this. And then the next thing is for me to write up the survey and then kind of just to document some of the instructions for submitting requests to the committee, so that folks here and also folks who couldn't make it have them. So cool. Any final thoughts from anyone on the board, or shall we call it a day? Great.
Motion to adjourn? Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds
Take
good.
care, everybody.
Groovy,
Thanks,
baby.
Talk to you
Thank you,
Okay,
Michael.
bye all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
thank you.